any minister of your choice, or any, maybe you may not. Now, it's important that you give it to, number one, an elder. Number one, must be an elder. Number two, a minister. But you can also give it to a poor community. I believe that would be good. This is one thing we have not done very well in our area, looking at our poor communities and rehabilitate them. We have not done it well. I see some of our brothers that make money and they go to throw money up. It's not good. It's not good. That's a show of pride that God is not happy with. We have many of our communities where children are not going to school. You know, our community is the only community that does not get subsidy from the federal government. None. So all our children that go to school is by the hard-earned money of their parents. So instead of doing all those wasteful things, let's help the communities. If you look at your own community, you will see children from poor families, giving them food you know will not solve the problem. Get that child to learn something, to learn a business. That's why that Igbo culture of making sure you take a poor child from a poor family to learn a business, and after 5, 6, 7 years, you settle, is a wonderful thing. And it only happens with Hebrews. Why? Because in Hebrew culture, you don't buy a Hebrew a slave. Even when he offers himself to be your servant, the Bible still says, don't treat him like a slave. And after 7 years, let him go. Bless him and let him go. So you see, this is another part of our culture that is a Hebrew ordinance. But we think it is just business. No! It is a Hebrew culture. It's a tradition. So the first fruit offering is important offering. You can, in that month, arrange it, give it to whoever. Before you give, thank God and say, it's my first fruit offering. And I'm giving it in your name. If you want to give it to a church, fine. If you want to give it to a motherless orphanage home, fine. If you want to find some of the widows that have nothing and use it to help them, fine. But it's an important offering. Okay, it's not tithe. It has nothing to do with tithe. God instituted these things to make sure that the community does not remain poor, that everybody is okay. Sometimes I go into NTR and I see a blind man, you know, and I hold his hand and lead him right. But I've also sat down and watched to see, can this man really find his way? And I see that they find their way, because that plastic thing on the ground, as long as they are touching that thing, they are not missing. They follow it. This is how God intended us to be, making sure that nobody is disenfranchised in our community. Okay? Any other question? I want to get some. Yes, sir.
My question goes in the Jewish and the Hebrew. In Israel, there's a promise we saw in the Bible from God to the Israelites. Is it to the Hebrew or to the Jewish?
Okay. Excellent question. Very excellent question. The Spanish man, according to some of the maps that we have, if you begin to check from 1530s map up till 1747 map of Africa, two people made very important statements. One was a Spanish man, one was a French man. They said, these people wear clothes, they can read and write, they have circumcision. Why do we think they are just baboons? That was the Spanish man that wrote this. But of course, you know that the people who were buying slaves knew who they were looking for. your question is going to take us to a very important information now. Slaves were not sold randomly. No. Slavery of the people in the Bight of Biafra was not a random thing. By the way, how many of you know that Garden of Eden was in Africa? Okay. You may not know. Okay. It was in Africa. Oh, I have no projection. So let me make a small drawing for you. Okay. So you see, African continent is looking something like this. Huh? Sorry. Okay. Garden of Eden was here. Below Egypt. This was where Garden of Eden was. If you read your Bible very well. When the son of Adam, Cain, that killed Abel, when he left the garden, the Bible says he moved to the east, what you now call Saudi Arabia. Now, many of you may not understand some things when you watch some movies, but when you go to the mythologies, the gods of ancient times, there are signs of these gods found here. Here. It's like a ring. A channel like this. Now, this kind of sign is found both here, and then in UK, the Stonehenge, and South America, and in Antarctica. Now, the reason why I came to this first is for you to understand why we will now have here, we have desert of Seth. Seth was the third son of Adam. In here there is a name called desert of Seth. You get it? So when the National Geographic tells you that life started in Africa, they are not making a mistake. It's true. Life started here. The only thing is that they quote millions and zillions of years to confuse you. Don't buy those numbers that they quote.
Sorry, the desert of Seth, presently, what country is it now?
I don't know if I should say Car. Central African Republic probably is falling within that place. But it's a large place. Okay, it's a large place starting from all the way here to
Congo,
here.
Congo and Gabon, all those areas.
Very large area.
Very large area.
Desert of Seth. So life was happening within Africa. And by the way, the original name is not Africa. So you need to know how history has turned things upside down. The essence of turning things upside down is so that the original owners will no more know what is theirs. You get it? So remember what I'm going to say now. When slaves were bought, their clothes were removed so that they would be naked. Their bangles were taken off. Anything that will remind them who they are was completely taken off. If they realize that two of you communicate a lot, they will separate you. If they see that you are father and mother, I mean father and daughter, father and son, they will separate you. Mother and child, they will separate you. And they were banned from speaking their language. They were forced to learn English. If you watch the movie Kinta Kinte, Kinta Kunte, or Kunta, whatever the boy was calling his name. Okay, okay. Now forget that name. That's some nonsense name. It's nothing like that. Nobody answers Kinta Kunta in Africa. Okay, so it's just to portray something, but that is to show you, number one, they changed their names forcefully, and these guys didn't want to bear any name that they didn't like. But they will force you to change your name. Why? Your name will remind you who you are. Your name will remind you where you are from. Your name will remind you who you worship. Ask yourself this question. Slaves, in the farm we are singing, Kumbaya, Kumbaya. Have you heard that song?
Yeah.
Today you hear it in churches and they are saying Kumbaya, as if it's a happy song. No, it was a song of pain. Come by here, Yahweh. We are suffering. Come by here. How would they know the name of Yah if they were not people of God? So what your question means is that there is an impersonation going on. And such impersonation is too powerful for anybody to challenge right now. Only God can do so. Because it is an impersonation that is shrouded into politics. For Israel to become a nation, it was agreed between UK, America, and the Rothschilds. Rothschild.
Russia. Russia.
Yeah, not Russia. Rothschilds.
Rothschild.
Rothschilds. Okay. Originally, this is a German name meaning red shield. This is the family that controlled the world financial circle. This is the family that started what you call fractional banking. That started what is called central banking system. That's the meaning. And it is a way of taking your money. So if your country money is worth 500 million, they will say make a gold of 500 million. They will take the gold and print paper and give for you there. So once I take your gold and give you paper, do you still have money? No, you don't. You're already poor. It's just that I keep printing paper and you keep thinking you have something because you are buying and selling with exchange of paper. So you still think you have something, but meanwhile you don't. So they control everything. Only 3 countries in the world don't have central banking system, and they are poor. They are very poor. Every other person is within their Yaba. They're holding everybody tight.
Which are those countries?
Somali is one of them. Is not using the fractional banking system. This country that is here that is being bombarded like no man's business. Yemen. But they are very strong people. These are very strong people. This is where Queen of Sheba came from. They are very tactful, hardened guys. They are never say die people. They believe a cause, they die for it. Believe me, Saudi will run from this place. Don't worry. They are tough. They're very tough guys. So now, this is a deal. You see, have you heard of what is his name? Okay. Let me, because of your question, read this so that all of us will simply benefit from what I'm going to read now. It's part of the book I am writing about who we are. But let me read this area for you so that everybody will benefit, recognizing the Hebrews or recognizing the real Hebrews. Now, in this, there are Jewish scholars I'm going to quote as reference. The first person will be Arthur Koestler. Arthur Koestler wrote a book, he called it The 13th Tribe. How many tribes do we have in Hebrews? 12 tribes. So if there is a 13th tribe, it means it must be fake. So he wrote this and said, these people calling themselves Jews must be the 13th tribe. He himself is a Jew. He's part of it. He's saying, I have checked everything. I am not who they say I am. I must be of the 13th tribe. Okay? Arthur Koestler is a Jewish historian. Okay. The second person that I would like to quote, Shlomo Sands. The name Shlomo is what you call Solomon. So, Shlomo Sands. Shlomo Sands says that the Zionist movement is a terrorist organization established in 1887 and gradually became the Likud party that is ruling Israel today. So, If you read his book, in total, Shlomo Sands in his book says that Jewish people are an invented people. This is in page 226 of his book, this Shlomo Sands book. He says, how can somebody return to a land that he has never been in before? Do you get it? So he says he's an invented people. That is Shlomo Sands. Okay? Shlomo Sands also says that their original language is Yiddish. Y-D-D-D-I-S-H. Yiddish. And Yiddish has no resemblance with Hebrew. In any way. No resemblance. Okay? So, according to Shlomo Sands, there is no way that the Jews can call themselves Hebrews. Benjamin Friedman, okay, also said that it is a terrorist organization that gradually took over that place. Okay? Now, there was a book published by Random House. That book published by Random House says that they are a Khazarian people. That book was published in 1976. Says they are Khazarian people. Now, let me quote another one. This was written by Ford, Henry Ford. Henry Ford is the person that was the owner of Ford Motors. Okay, Henry Ford spent millions in those days. Okay, he spent millions in 1800, and he did a research. And in his research, Henry Ford said, let me read it the way I wrote it here. He says, the founder of Ford Motors spent millions to research the origins of the Jews in 1800, when they were pouring into America, dominating banks, printing houses, politics, seminaries, and changing written documents of history. He concluded that these are people trying to take over the world, and they have nothing to do with the Hebrews of the Bible. Okay, that's Henry Ford. Now, John Beatty, in 1951, he's a USA intelligence officer. John Beatty. He wrote a book he titled The Iron Curtain Over America. He said the Jews are becoming an iron curtain over America. And that man was right. Today, the Jews control the media houses. CNN, BBC, Fox News, SNBC, all those things. They control it. They control the central bank, the Reserve Bank of America. They control most of the banks. They control the entertainment, HBO and all those things. They control it. They control most of everything in America. They have actually become that iron curtain over America. Anybody doing politics and going for presidency that does not root for the Jews will never get that office. You must come to their guys and say, yes, whatever you want, I will do, before you will win. They have become an iron curtain. Okay? So that was John Beatty. Cornel Curtis B. Dole also wrote a book and says that it was Israel's secret 5 trillion. 5 trillion. The man opened the way to show how Israel was milking the world in trillions. Also citing what you call, let me not go there. Okay, that book was written in 1977. Let me not go there. Okay, so Joseph J. Williams in his book pointed out that Hebrews should be found in West Africa if you want to find them. Go to West Africa. That's Joseph J. Williams. That book is Hebrews in West Africa. In page 227, he talks about Hebrews. The way they were called Hebrews. But they were being called Hebrews because they were saying we are Hebrews. Only that the accent that they were speaking with was too heavy for the Westerner to understand that they are saying we are Hebrews. But they actually understand, because that's why they were buying them as slaves. They know who they are. I will come to that. Okay, that's Joseph J. Williams. Rudolph Windsor, also in his book From Babylon to Timbuktu, did a very excellent job. Jamal Abdul Nasser was the former president of United Arab Republic in 1956. He said, we cannot accept Israel back into this place because they left black and came back white. You get that? Jamal Abdul Nasser, the former president of, yes. He was also, he's from Egypt, but he was the president of United Arab Republic in those days when the Arabs were trying to put themselves together. But of course they were scattered again because he was killed for it. What do you think? Okay? So this is no more, you know, I told you about the World Jewish Almanac, you know. If you check the World Jewish Almanac 1980, you will see it is clear. They say we are not Hebrews. So the promises in the Bible are not for them. It's for us. But we are people of season. Season. Psalm chapter 1 tells you that we are people of season. In Psalm chapter 1. You see, have you read it? Yeah, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. In it does he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and he brings forth his fruit in what? Season. We are people of season. Right now we are still going through the season of our suffering, but it's ending. It is toward the ending. How did I calculate that it is ending? Because number one, the fig tree is blossoming. Number two, the slave trade is clocking 400 years. So we are beginning to enter into a different season that is a time for the world to know who we are. But we have to do it well. That's why I said we must do it well. We must not bring in any muchi kidi into it. If not, we will fail. If not, we will fail. Remember, the journey from Egypt to Israel was supposed to be 40 days. But it became 40 years. So if we miss it again, we will suffer. We cannot miss it. That's why everybody have to come in.
Now 400 years will come. It's not only clock 400 years.
One day. Well, it depends on the way you calculate it. The Arabs were doing slavery 200 years before the Europeans there. It was the Arabs that told them, these are Yahudians. That's what they call us. Yahudians. In other words, Judeans. Hebrews, whom their God has forsaken. They said, we are Yahudians, whom their God have forsaken. Hebrews, whom their God have forsaken. We were good in planting, in forging crafts, in business, trading. We were good in building anything, in moving heavy stuff. We had intelligence that amazed the West. That's why they were buying us. Look, America as a nation refused to pay reparation for slaves, but they will suffer it. Because the whole of America was built by slaves. The cotton, the food, the houses, everything was built on the back of slaves who were not even paid anything for their labor. Rather, they were killed. It's painful. They have paid Japanese. After the war, they paid Japanese some money. They are paying Hebrews, Jews, you know, they are paying Vietnamese. But they refuse to pay the blacks. But we are the ones. Look, the Washington University just 2 months ago came out to say, from now on, anybody that can prove that he's a descendant of slaves, his children, whoever wants to go to school, will go to school free of charge. Because this university was built with money collected from the work their fathers did. 7 universities have come out to say the same thing in America. You think they don't know the truth? They know. But they don't want to come out openly as a government and own it up. Because it's going to release a basket of worms. But what was done to us was too sad. Was too sad. So the promises are for us, but we are people of season. But secondly, the promise also in the scripture is applicable to anybody that receives Yeshua. That's why I said we must understand what Yeshua means. All the promises of God, culminates in Yeshua. He is the conclusion of it. He says, I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. It's the fulfillment of the law. Yeshua provides an easy way for us to walk with our Father, Yahweh. So many of the promises, of course, promises can be claimed by anybody that is a believer in Yeshua. Because in his name you can obtain. Why? Because the Gentiles are now being grafted into the what? Commonwealth of Israel. That's what the Bible called it. The Commonwealth of Israel. The Gentiles are being grafted into it. It is so sad when I see Hebrews thinking they are Gentiles. But we are people that are possessors of God's covenant even in the flesh. But we are losing it because we are not looking to the Spirit and understanding fully well who we are. So they are for us. The reason why we don't get these things is because we were uprooted. Psalm 83 says we shall be uprooted from the place so that we will no more remember who we are. Read it in Psalm 83. He said, come, let us uproot them and take them far away. And they will never know who they are again. They will cease to be a nation. And that's what happened to us. We ceased from being a nation. We are all mixed up into different